Well, it's a real privilege to have the directors of Altvest in our virtual studio today. You can see them on screen if you're watching us on live on YouTube, or if you're listening to us, I'll introduce them. Rob Hersoff, Kaushik Karan, and Warren Wheatley. The company called Altvest is a very exciting project, one that we at BizNews are privileged to be part of, and will be moving into the future, hopefully transforming the way that that people invest in the early stage of exponential companies. Warren, it's pretty much your brainchild, or you certainly have been the guy who's been driving this most aggressively. Where does it come from, the idea of Altvest?
Alec, it's always been a dream of mine ever since spending time, advising ultra high net worth family offices. When I saw the amount of deals that hit their desks and the connections and opportunities, I had a burning desire to make those opportunities available to the ordinary public. And it's a travesty that it's taken us this long to get there, but it's needed a combination of tech, some savvy, and just the movements in capital markets to get this right. Finally, we can offer these in a fractionalized way, in bite-sized chunks, to everybody. So suddenly, a call center agent can buy a stake in a wine farm, or a solar plant, or a Ferrari, or an Arabian stallion. So we now finally have all the tools that can bring these things together to make equal access to all investment opportunities almost wherever they present themselves in the world. We eventually will be offering assets across the world in South Africa.
Rob Hersoff, you've been playing in these global investment markets for a long time, and if you have a look at the big opportunities, Facebook, Google, many of those, even Tencent, the people who are given the opportunities in the first place aren't private citizens. It's a very elite group. Altvest presumably is going to transform that.
Absolutely. When Goldman Sachs call me and say they'd like to show me something, I know that I'm probably the 10th, 50th, 100th, or 1,000th person in line. They always look after their clients first, themselves first, and clients, and then everybody else thereafter. So it's like the old adage, if you're in London and somebody's showing the greatest deal in Hollywood or the greatest oil deal in Texas, be very careful, because they showed it to the Hollywood crowd and the Texas crowd first. So this is a great way for the man or lady on the street to be able to invest. And I had a chat to a friend recently who said that his dad basically taught him to get a job and invest in property. And that was his investment environment. But now he understands you've got to have a portfolio. You've got to be nimble. If you see a trend, you've got to be able to invest in that trend. And if it's a private company, or if it's handled by a big investment bank, or it's on a giant stock exchange, you don't really stand a chance. This democratizes investing.
From a BizNews point of view, we're very excited about being part of this, because we can then offer these opportunities to our community. The same with Warren, who's a director of Arena, which is a major media company. From your side, Banker X, you have a different audience, a more kind of savvy audience, a more digital native audience, if you like, younger people. How are you going to communicate the advantages of Altvest to them?
It's actually a really good question, Alec. And like Rob and Warren, I've spent a large part of my career in investment banking, and I understand how the privilege of information works, right? And, to your question, how am I going to do it? My job is actually very easy, because right now in capital markets and in investing as a whole, there's an inflection point where retail investors have really seized the bull, no pun intended, by the horns, right? Robinhood's IPOing today. Where would you have ever thought, a company that democratizes access to retail investing fetches a valuation of, close to $40 billion? Retail investors as a whole and the community that we represent have a large, deep distrust for financial institutions. They've been let down many times before. High fees on retirement annuities, high brokerage cost, unable to access basic financial products. They have an even deeper distrust of government, right? We're all in South Africa. We all know that the government, can't run a bath, let alone a country. So when you have retail investors that don't trust the government, don't trust financial institutions, and need the platform to have the ability to democratize access to information, that's where we come in. We're making it possible.
It is a phenomenal view that Koshik has just provided, Warren. And from the background that you gave, are you seeing this as being a little bit of a revolution for retail investors, given the point that these were deals that came across the desks of the super high net worth individuals that you used to work with? Now anybody will get access to them.
Yeah, we certainly hope it will revolutionize the markets. And I think there's space at the table for everybody. The number of deals available and the amount of capital required, particularly to rebuild South Africa, I think we not only need to give access to these opportunities, but quite frankly, we need to start sourcing capital to rebuild the country from all sources, including those who have been marginalized with ill-equipped access. So I think it's needed on both fronts. The guys need to stop investing in these silly RAs and those kind of things, but equally businesses need capital and can't be as selective as where they source that capital anymore. And this is hopefully going to do a quicker turnaround on how people can source capital. I think it's great years as well. They don't need to sell their souls to VCs or private equity firms, and they don't need to mortgage the family farm to get a loan from a bank. You simply have to convince your community that this is a viable option, and that's what the various media platforms are going to allow. We're going to effectively make a marketplace where the entrepreneur can talk to colleagues on an even footing and give equal access to the information. And people can then arrive at true price discovery and the media's role is going to be quite simple. Give the platforms for open discussion, open negotiation, and price discovery in its truest, purest form.
I've got a point for all three of you, and I'd love to get your opinions as we go through. Warren, would you also mind just muting your notifications? I think someone's seen you on YouTube is now just telling you, hey, I saw you on YouTube. But last night, after 3 days of collapsing stock markets in China, the Chinese authorities got together with some Wall Street banks, and they had a conference call, a very secret conference call, not secret enough because it's all over the Financial Times of London this morning. And of course, we published it in Biz News as well. But in this secret conference call with these 1% of the 1%, if you like, they explained to them information that saw the Hong Kong market thereafter jump 10%. Now, just starting from that basis, and actually the way that financial markets work, Rob Hersoff, that would suggest to me that first there's somebody knows stuff. The information Koshik was talking about a bit earlier, they know stuff that the rest of us don't know, and it's almost like the game it's gamed against you, or the odds are against you. I'd love to get the three of you your views on this kind of thing, because Altvest presumably is trying to break that.
Take the big investment banks. I'm not going to pick out any one as an example, but the big names, Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Bank of America, they're on both sides of the casino. They're representing investors. They're representing their own money, whether it's partner money or management money. And they know exactly what's going on the other side. Now, I know Chinese walls have been put up, and they're particularly in America and the UK and Europe, there are huge sanctions for insider trading. But every time there's a crisis, it happens to be the big investment banks that are right in the middle of that, who have been pushing products that they shouldn't be pushing, who've been gaming the system. They're on the inside and the outside of the casino. They win every time. So the level of trust from sophisticated people towards those banks is very, very low. But they're a fact of nature. You can't do without them. The Chinese had to call them. And clearly there was insider trading, and it probably was from the Chinese side, I would guess, and highly unlikely, I would hope, from the international banks. But somebody made a fortune on that quiet conversation.
Well, there's another story today related to that of how an international bank, HSBC, has now finally been fingered by the Department of Justice for $4.2 billion in money laundering that went through, through the Guptas. So, one would hope that the investment banks didn't participate, but somebody did, and somebody got screwed. And you can be sure it's a small guy again who got screwed on that one. But Kaushik, your thoughts on that as just a reflection of the structure that we have in the financial markets today, and what Altvest is trying to address?
I think I think Rob, Alec, off the bat, we've got to agree that the stock market is not the economy, right? Fundamentals are disconnected to the valuations that we're seeing currently in the economy, right? Why? Because you have relentless Fed stimulus, you have unfiltered buybacks, you have interest rates, real interest rates and yields that are negative for the first time in history. You have unemployment that's still high. You have wage growth that's still stagnant. So the man on the street hasn't benefited from the stock market rally that you've seen, bar the COVID era in the last 12 years. We're in the longest bull market in history, but the man on the street's earnings potential hasn't grown up in scale. Altvest aims to solve some of that because you're connecting tangible, hard, real assets to ownership, right? It solves one of the fundamental problems of stock markets as we see it. And as Rob said, when it comes to the market as we know it, it's not driven by the Warren Buffett-esque Bill Graham value investing MBA textbook CFA level 1 things that you learn in business school. It doesn't work anymore. Guess what? It's driven off euphoria. It's driven off an Elon Musk tweet at 3 in the morning. It's driven off, hey, my friend likes this stock. My girlfriend likes it, therefore I'll buy the stock, right? Diligence has completely been thrown away. And again, that's where Altvest comes in. You have an ability to properly diligence assets, interview management, get stuck into the detail. And here's the thing. The best way to take part in the economy, Alec, is to own the economy. And that's what Altvest is doing.
And to own it at a level before all the helpers and the super helpers. I know you don't, you mentioned Warren Buffett, but he's got a heck of a lot of good common sense. And he explains that if you take the helpers and the super helpers, in other words, the intermediaries between a company and when it finally gets listed, it's just huge chunks. We saw a Naspers with its share conversion into process. It's going to cost $145 million to do it. Extraordinary. Warren, maybe you could address your thoughts on that, and then just tell us how Altvest is going to work.
Comment on China. It reminds me of the book The Hobbit or the movie, where the society, always knew that there was this dragon hidden in the mountain, and just lived their lives forgetting that it was a dragon. And eventually the dragon woke up and reminded everyone that I am still a dragon. And we sort of forgotten that China's communist China is in fact a communist regime. They let us forget it for a while, and I think we all wanted to as well, which worked the whole thing out. What's great about Altvest, though, is that it's going to almost remove ourselves. We'll be going off the grid from an economic perspective. Finally, we're removing government, we're removing banks, and we're removing stoic, old style thinking financial institutions. We're going completely off grid. It's man to man, woman to woman, entrepreneur to investor, having frank, real discussions on a platform that allows for it at mass. And so we for me, that's the best way to describe it. We've just removed all the barriers to entry, or as many as we can, and given people the tools to communicate with each other. And let's just get the job done. That's it. And so these things should start mattering less and less. Pricing and emotion should matter less, because you'll drive past a hotel you own every day, and you'll make your buying decision on how much parking lot or not. Or you'll attend a boutique cinema, and you'll attend it every Friday night, and after a few Fridays of being the only person in the cinema, you'll make a sell decision, not based on factors that don't actually drive value. And we are removing ourselves from all these blow leaves but don't actually move the needle. And that's sort of what Altvest is going to be doing.
It sounds to me like the the companies that are going to be listing on Altvest will be small, at least to begin with.
We're hoping to, Kashi can talk to this, but we want to,
we're not averse to, and
by the way, we're actually going to take it one step further. We're going to the community bring opportunities to us as well. So everyone gets involved from the start. It's and so they may be small, but they need to be opportunities that the public want to invest in. So it could be a toll road servicing a local community. It could be a seaside development that the community that benefits from that have first rights to invest in.
Could be a sports franchise or a
could be a
football
sports
club.
Right. Yeah. Instead of buying, I've already got 3 Springbok scarves. I may spend the next 400 Rand on a Springbok share instead of a Springbok scarf. And what better vote of confidence in my team is there than ownership in it? So those are the kind of opportunities. Or if you like the races, you could spend half on betting on your horse and the other half in owning the horse. And those are the kind of opportunities and the way we see things. So, in the one time in society, size won't really matter. But we're gonna try and just get a diverse opportunity set available, and things you wouldn't ordinarily have access to. The idea was also sprung when I used to watch Dragon's Den, and I thought, shit, I'd invest in that. You see some of those ideas and on Shark Tank and all these opportunities all around you that it felt like window shopping when I was a kid. Like you just looking in and seeing what is possible, but having no real access to it. Suddenly those barriers are down and you can actually participate. And one of the key aspects needed was to make them accessible in bite-sized pieces. So we're going to be able to allow you to buy 100 Rands worth of a stallion or a super yacht or a new film or rights to a song or rights to a movie or in a windmill farm or a bridge or whatever the case may be. But, similarly, we won't turn down a check for 10 billion either, so size truly doesn't matter.
But it's a very
environment.
Yeah, it's a good segue into Lion's Cage, Rob Hersoff, that you've been busy with for a while now. So Lion's Cage and your interactions that you have with these entrepreneurs from the African continent, many of them in the tech field, which could be exponential companies. We look on the outside still, but with Altvest, we'll be looking on the inside, presumably.
And Lion Cage was set up sort of as an experimental fun thing at the beginning of lockdown. And Warren gave it a huge amount of support. And for that, I'm eternally grateful. And it was just a bit of fun. Let's profile companies of people we know that we believe in and see if we can help them with an ask. And the ask didn't have to be financial. It could be, I'm looking to expand into Europe, looking for a CTO. But it evolved very quickly into a very investor-based audience where companies, go through a form of vetting. And 66% of companies profiled on LionCage now get the money or get the ask they're looking for. But Altvest is going to be, we have an audience of 150, 160, investors around the world that enjoy it and love it. And it's somewhat amateur and a lot of fun. But Altvest is the real thing. It's a, fully regulated, vetted, well-managed platform. But the 160 or so members or subscribers of the LionCage will be very good first audience for Altvest. So we plan to feed them into Altvest.
We're going to talk in a moment about how it all works and how people can get involved. But maybe, Kaushik, from a media perspective, I can tell you where we're coming from at BizNews is we would encourage our community to sign up through, there'll be a brokerage that you can sign up in, maybe express your interest. I mean, all of this is coming down the line with the official or the hard launch. This is more like a soft launch. And we'll also be telling our community that if they've got exciting businesses, that they can list them on Altvest. You don't have to go through all the hoops that you're required on more formalized exchanges. But on the other hand, you will be required to be interviewed, to be sharing your information regularly with the community that is investing in you. So it's such a for us at BizNews, it's revolutionary. It's very much what we believe in. From your perspective, why did you get involved with Banker X?
Alec, as mentioned earlier, I've spent my entire career in investment banking, right? And it becomes apparent very quickly the disconnect in the level of information that you have access to relative to the man on the street. But the man on the street is the reason you have these valuations. It's the reason you have companies listed. These are the people that are the hands and hard labor of our economy, yet they aren't rewarded for it, right? And if you look at any listed company, particularly in South Africa, where you have incredibly high executive compensation, and there's a lot of people in this country who are getting paid far too much for doing far too little, right? In corporate South Africa and in government especially. And why we got involved is to say, listen, if we have a company that's performing well, your local store that you invest in, your local sports team, you should be able to share in the earnings, the success, and the victory of that company. You are the company, right? And I got involved as Banker X, like Warren and Rob, to close the gap between value and receiving value as a person who creates it.
So Warren, where's the filter? What filter is there going to be? Kaushik has just mentioned now the local store that you might go to. If when you have a look at maybe a stallion that John Costa would have at Klavervlei that could be exciting into the future, perhaps he would be wanting to list it. Where do you start though? And there's got to be some filter because there unfortunately are lots of crooks out there as well.
So we have a number of processes that will help. So it's a combination of technology. There'll be a platform that the budding entrepreneur would have to go through, and it's not dissimilar to a credit application with the bank, but that's the starting process. It's just submitting the core information to do a financial assessment. We'll then screen those and make a number of opportunities available to the public for open discussion.
Kaushik, last word from your side before we let Warren finish his thought.
We are extremely excited to see this launch. A lot of work has gone on behind the scenes, but you know what? This is not our platform. It's your platform. It's your platform in as much as it's ours. So we're going to build this together. We're going to refine it. And undoubtedly, we're going to make it a success together.
Warren, last word?
Alec, I'm not sure what happened there, but quickly, the filter will be made up of tech that does robust financial analysis and filtering. We will have an IC investment committee made up of some seasoned professionals who will help vet But then it's going to be handed over back to the community, and all the wannabe investment bankers, the wannabe chartered accountants are going to have their go at doing their own valuations. And much the way that large markets work, where information is distributed equally, we'll arrive at a price and a valuation, and we hope with enough eyes on every opportunity, we'll squirrel out the best ones. And once we've done that, people are going to be able to put cash and participate in the growth of those. So just a reminder to everyone, this is a soft launch. We only plan on launching formally in the third quarter, but we've all been drinking our own Kool-Aid anymore. So today is really just a test to check if we're on the right track. If there are entrepreneurs who want to raise capital through this platform, we'd like to hear from you. And equally, if this is something that the community wants, you may just want to buy NASPA shares and be subject to Chinese communist rules, but you may also, we want to hear from you. If this does interest you, let us know. Go to our website. There's a short little form to fill out and let us know. And we'll then keep you in contact and keep you. That's it.